Good afternoon. I hope everyone's well. It's been a few days since I've streamed because I've been having to catch up with so much stuff now when Bitcoin dumped and took all the alts down. Well, I guess all the alts were dropping anyway. Yeah, so I thought I'd do the next section of my watch list, which finally I've got around to doing. I'm still only halfway through the alphabet, so still got a long way to go, unfortunately. And yeah, so I'm not going to do too much on Bitcoin since the last updates anyway. I've given a few scalps on the Telegram channel, so if you're not on the Telegram channel, then you should be, because then you would have seen, you know, just got these sort of scalp entries and seen my sort of slight reticence. So particularly Bitcoin, I was very reticent of this entry, 4-hour demand, but and it was 61 fib as well actually, but a lot of people were looking to long that. So as you can see, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 bounces, or 5 or 6 if you include the other close bounces above the level, what is that, 95,600, and then it went and took out the stops into the 4 hour this morning. However, there were so many people wanting to long here, I was really reticent about it, so I left the entry there in the alert and we said we'd see, but I said there's a fair chance that it's either going to fail or that we have like a stop hunt of the stop hunt, which wouldn't surprise me. So the only thing that's thrown me off slightly is having these stops right above the level. So yeah, I'm just looking for more to develop on this really. I had another zone down here, it was a 10-minute demand that wasn't tested right at the bottom. I put on the alert there that there are walls under the wick at 92k and 92,300, so there's a wick in here on the lower time frame, but yeah, there's some walls just a bit lower than this, so it could well wick through this zone as well if it comes back down here. And there's not really much that makes me want to confident with longing yet, because we haven't made it through any supply, and we've flipped a 12-hour demand in here but still haven't got back through the supply. So for me I'm still indecisive, and I guess I'm still, like, obviously long biased in the bigger picture, but short biased on the lower time frame for now. Just show you the bigger picture. So the other sort of slight issues I had. Sorry, well, not fully prepared for this with the right charts in the right places, but so I had some reticence that with Korea particularly. So let me look at Korea. So Korea is in a bigger 2-week demand here. I'll show you that time frame. This bigger 2-week demand's not strong because it only closed with wicks above the high, but had this 1 week inside it. So I was wondering if we were going to get a test down into this and then even into that 2-day inside that, and I was hoping that would happen on the wick that we had down into that 4 hour on Bitcoin US dollar pair, but we haven't. So this is just still drifting down and it's still looking more bearish than the US dollar pair. Didn't flip the 12-hour supply to demand in here, so I still think obviously it's looking like we can go lower on this based on that 12-hour time frame. It's still drifting down, at least maybe swing fail of that wick into the weekly would be nice, or possibly into the 2-day. So yeah, just be a little bit careful of just FOMOing into longs right now. Although, like I say, yeah, this does have a 12-hour demand on the US dollar pair. I think CME we did have a gap below, which got filled, but CME is still potentially rejecting this daily supply in here. I was testing it, so need to see what happens there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, just a little bit indecisive, but I guess we're running in a range really, a low time frame range anyway. US dollar dominance is also messy. You know, last week I said I wanted to see this trend line taken out, and we took it out, sort of a bit of it with 1 wick, but then went back up again and has now created the 12-hour supply in contrast to the US dollar pair's 12-hour demand. So again, you know, we might see this fall now and a move up on Bitcoin, it's possible. Yeah, so we do still have the wicks under there, so then that would obviously be the equivalent to Bitcoin taking out the wicks above. But yeah, we've got weekly demand in there. You know, I would have just liked to see this test a bit lower, I think, is the major issue. So yeah, just watching a bit more for this things to develop through here. The US dollar pair in the bigger picture. We've got, I actually have, so these are the old entries I gave. So I've added an entry, a possible entry here. This alert on the 2-day supply. So there's equal highs at 108,800 and there's an untested hourly. So just kind of that area again might see a rejection for the lower high through here if we get another push up. And then failing that, there's another daily supply at the top, and then also obviously could just keep going up. So in the bigger picture, reiterate what I've said previously, this daily demand is bounding the whole consolidation. We had a monthly demand sitting on top of it. So, you know, I don't want to be bearish while we're in monthly demand, but also just watching for the scalps on the lower time frames. We can potentially come lower inside this, into this daily zone, and take out a few more of these wicks. And, you know, a wick through the monthly would be okay, but it would have to then close back above. Otherwise, I would then become bearish. But basically, if we fail to hold this daily zone, barring a wick, then I would be a lot more bearish. So that's pretty much it on Bitcoin, I think. I'm just looking for scalps really at the moment. It's not much. It's a tough little range to trade at the moment now, just because it's too tight. So the lower time frames take scalps, and that's fine. And then we'll just see what happens. But yeah, that bearishness on the Korea pair is slightly more concerning. And again, just to reiterate on Korea, like what I said previously, which is sort of interesting and certainly should be noted for next time, was this sort of top signal that we had on the premium. So I've shared this a few times. So this is the Korea premium chart. So how much that the Korean pair is trading at a premium or discount over the US dollar pair. So 0 is around the middle here. And obviously we've had a couple of spikes up here. But what I have shared previously is that these premium spikes tend to happen just after we see the top. So the top, we top out on the US dollar pair, then Korea pushes a bit higher, and sometimes we get, I actually did put the Korean pair on here as well the other day, just to, Miles, it's gone off, just to see the divergence, but we then see some divergence in the, so you can see here in current price that we've got a divergence between the BTC Korea two tops and the US dollar pair making well, it's a lower high on the line chart. It did take a wick, but yeah, we see a bit of that divergence, but it's not consistent, and this isn't a large enough data set for me to be overly confident. But it was something that I commented on previously, just to be a bit wary of, that each of these tops, and I think even this top, has signified a bigger drop on Bitcoin. Just put it back to my normal chart. Yeah, so not much else to say on that. Ether is still not great. So we did bounce Ether. We did bounce on this monthly demand. Sorry, in fact, there was a monthly. I think I've deleted it actually because it took a wick so deep inside it. But so there is a monthly demand here. And the wick went right to the bottom, like it was, I think, a few dollars above the bottom of this monthly zone. Sorry, my chart's just got too much on it at the moment. So we went deep down inside that. I'm just going to take out a few of these levels so it's a bit clearer. We went deep down inside that, and we're looking for a retest. And the retest has only come up as far as the it was the 61 fib just on the initial drop. I've deleted the fib now, so I've just got the larger fib in there. But it came up to the 61 fib there, and has really just, again, just holding like Bitcoin is at the moment. You know, and it's possible here we'll see, you know, a daily demand. Like if this does close higher now, we might get a daily demand in place, but we've still got this sort of drift with daily supply and just knocking off them and dropping lower. So again, I can't be overly bullish on this. However, then similarly, as you can see, I had the, you know, the alert for this monthly demand, although it went right to the bottom. But I can't be overly bearish while we're still in monthly demand. If we do come back up, I'm looking initially at the 61 fib. So there is a 4-day supply that comes in at 3,080. there would be a sort of risk area just at the bottom. It's the breakdown of this level here. So it could reject lower, and I'm still in a bit of two minds about it. But at the moment, my alert's higher because firstly, we have two CME closes, which are higher in this zone anyway. The 61 fib is a bit higher, and it has been respecting that quite well lately. Let me just check something. Yeah, there's just obviously this trend line, and there's a bunch of things that haven't been tested above, but initially I'll just be looking from around this 3,100 area to see if we get a rejection. And again, just as a reminder of my previous and very bearish analysis, and I still only trade supply and demand as I see them, but unfortunately I'm not going to be able to share this without showing the bigger chart. But what we had here, and that I've talked about before, is we had this a push up, we had a consolidation, we had a push up, unable to take out the high, came and tested the consolidation, lower high, and then dropped through. And this smaller pattern is fairly similar to the bigger pattern here. So I kind of overlaid the smaller pattern on here. And this is my concern, I think, that this second move up has been unable to make a higher high. In the bigger picture, it's also been unable to take out this high. So I'm then concerned that, we're just going to get a retest and then a much bigger drop. And then the much bigger concern, which everyone will freak out about, but again, I just like to think of the most extreme scenarios, is that we have the same bigger pattern here. Again, we've got a move up, a consolidation, a move up again that's been unable to take out the high. It's come and tested, or potentially it could come and test this zone, but it's not a strong zone because it's been unable to take out the high. You're wanting, when you're looking for, the structure to be an up move, you want it to take out the high, and then that would say this demand is strong. As it is, it's only got to here. And yes, of course, it's possible we consolidate through here, make a triangle and go up. So I don't want to be overly bearish, but as always, just trade zones as and when they break. But this is a possibility based on the structure as I see it. Now we could hold this monthly demand and make it, and go and make a higher high from here. Again, this could consolidate through here in a triangle, so I guess we'll just see, but that's just the concern here from a supply demand perspective. My bigger concern is that these zones that we're trading longs from aren't strong zones. In addition, like if you look at the 2-month chart, so you'll remember that I was looking, for shorts through here when we hit this 2-month supply. I didn't like, we had hit a monthly demand at the low, but there's a 2-month, 3 months down here that hasn't been tested. So this 2-month supply could have had a rejection, and it did go right to the top and swing failed it. But again, we're looking at swing failure on the 2-monthly. So really, this month's fairly critical. We just don't want this month to be closing below 2,500 because that's potentially, then we're going to put in a new monthly supply, and then things could get very nasty. But yeah, so waiting for my chart to load. Should also say in advance, if anybody's watching, I'm hoping my internet's going to hold, but while I normally have technical issues in general anyway, which I've kind of dealt with now, the internet's been very flaky lately and just drops in and out, so I don't know how that's going to affect the stream if it does drop out. Yeah, so anyway, potential shorts if we get up into this, the 4-day from 3,080 and then up higher would be better from a fib perspective. Longs, like you saw the longs at the start of the stream that I had on the 4-hour in here and then on this hourly. And obviously this can come lower. So the other thing obviously you can look for is, just draw a fib from the top of that, from the bottom of the bounce to the top of the bounce, and then, potentially down here, the 61 fib, this kind of area, that's retesting the old monthly zone in here at the lows. So we could come and test around, where are we, below 2,500, or with this sort of 2,200 to 2,300 area could give us a retest. And we've seen that again a lot previously. I remember I made this comparison up here Again, quite a common ether pattern where we bounce, we dump, we bounce, we make a triangle. This is like the ripple pattern as well. We distribute above it and then roll back through it. And we did that. The bigger version of that is down here that went up. Bit of consolidation, distribute, and then roll back through it. So we aren't necessarily going to get that now, but again, it's something to be aware of. You know, if we do end up with a consolidation through here, what I'd potentially be looking for is that type of move later if we don't get down here first, because I would expect us to fill out more of the wick. What else? Again, from the bearish perspective, I was looking back at a bit of history just to see how things looked, and something we really don't want to see but should be keeping an eye out for is this type of pattern, because again, that's what we're looking at the moment. We had a bounce, it didn't get very far, and then consolidated and then started making daily supply, dropped again, and then made a 3-day supply, I think, in here, or maybe even a higher time frame, but I think I was looking at the 3-day earlier, and then we got a big drop afterwards. So again, we just be conscious of that pattern if it develops. You know, at the moment it has developed on the daily time frame. The only thing here is the other, actually, this is probably another area where I'd look for a possible short, would be in that daily, if it just takes out that wick and taps into the daily. And a lot of the majors look like that as well, so I'll go and have a look at the majors now. But yeah, that's pretty much it on Ether. I don't think there's anything on ETHBTC. ETHBTC really just looks like the US dollar pair. The only thing, again, in this favor on ETHBTC is that it has come now down into the 2-month demand down here. So it is, but then Ether so far has not held any zone that we wanted it to hold. So, you know, we were looking for longs up here off the 3-month demand, then potentially off the monthly inside the 3-month, but no, we've come all the way down into here. So at some point we'd like to see this bounce, but at the moment, so far, it's not showing any signs. Again, I guess the other thing in its favor is that ETFs have started buying a little bit now. There's also a 2-day supply in there now. ETFs have got a little bit of buying, and then we've also had, what is it, I want to say the World Fund, but that doesn't sound right because it's the America, but you know, a major American fund that's been buying, but it's also been buying this whole downtrend, so I don't think that necessarily means it's going to hold, but yeah, but again, that could give impetus for this to start trying to move up. But unfortunately, it has so much supply now. It's got, you know, monthly supply up here, a 2-weekly supply there, 4-day, you know, it's got a long way to go. Unless it's just going to pull an ether and throw one of these giant candles, which hopefully then will hold a retest, but I guess we'll see. So far, any big up moves it's had, you know, for the past couple of years haven't held any retest. So, not overly confident. Yeah, so that's Ether, and then quickly onto the majors. So I have added some entries in on these because yeah, I just wanted to have, so if you follow me, you'll know, like, mostly on these on the majors, like, I don't massively trade them myself, but I do use them for confluence because I think they're good confluence when they all hit supply, when they all hit demand, for the rest of the market, and being able to make entries on the rest of the market. Hi, Boo One. So let's start quickly on Ripple. So again, if you've watched any of my streams over the past few months, this is exactly what I expected. And we were looking for shorts off the possible swing failure here, and then if you got any of the scalp entries. So this pattern is very common on Ripple. We don't normally see it on such a high time frame, but it is a common pattern. It's a common pattern for Ripple and also for the market as a whole. It's wicked down and just taken the stops below this. Obviously it didn't go, like, my entry was more conservative on this and has been for a while, down in 3-day demand down here, but didn't even make it to the immediate 3 days, so still reasonably strong, but actually with the bounce has been somewhat weaker. So like Ether, it's got this daily supply above here which it hasn't quite tested, and yeah, all the majors are just a little bit hard because they've got, you know, again, I've done the same fib that I've done on Ether. Some of them have come down lower, others haven't, but again, like, it's trying to pick a previous level that it might bounce on, but I just want to see a bit more develop on these. I have put another possible entry on 2-day, 5-day supply up here, just to see, because I think it's worth a try. You know, if we do get a test up there, it might still break out, having taken the stops off the low. It's possible it takes the stops off here, but it's worth worth watching for a possible short entry, because if it does die from here, it will be extremely high risk to reward. And then, yeah, just to the downside, I'll, you know, approach that as and when it arrives. But 3-day demand here, and then we've got a big annual level down here, so that would be the next sort of critical level I'd be looking at. I think the annual doesn't really have much, it's only got 4 hour at the level, so my preferred would be deeper inside, but we'll see if and when we ever get down there. So that's Ripple. I also do need to look again at the BTC pairs. The only one I've liked previously when I was looking at it was Litecoin. So Litecoin's actually one of the stronger ones. It did hold within the range. I was wondering if it would close below here and be weaker, but it actually held in the range. And again, it's the one, this and BNB were the only two I've sort of put in the group saying, okay, this has made a daily demand, and it came off it yesterday and it's had a decent move up. It's in 3-day supply now, so I alerted that for a possible short, but so far obviously isn't showing any sign of rejecting. And then ideally I wanted lower on this 3-day and then 2-week demand, but however it has just come off 2-month demand. Let me have a look. I think it was slightly offset, yeah. So I don't love these when they're offset. You know, you've got the level, sure, but then there's like 4 candles in between before the retest. So if that's the case, then I would prefer to use a demand inside there. However, in this case, it's just bounced right off the top. So yeah, Litecoin's still pretty strong at the moment. If it goes higher, then potentially just taking out this high, there's a couple of weekly zones, and then my next alert is at a 5-day higher inside this 3-month up here. But I need to have a look at the BTC pair on this. But this is kind of interesting. One of the stronger ones, BCH. Okay, so BCH did obviously go through the entry I had. This is similar to Ether. I had actually disclaimed this entry anyway, for the exact same reason of Ether, that we had this weak demand. It was a monthly demand, so it was worth watching. However, it's been unable to make a higher high. We've gone back into a yearly supply up here. So I said there was a fair chance it was going to take out some of this zone and then also these trend line stops. And then it's got a whole bunch of more trend line stops down there. So it has come down and it's taken out the whole zone and gone into back into the 2-week demand down here. And again, it's still bounced really well, reasonably well, but hasn't really had much structure so far to trade. Like again, locally, it's got a 12-hour demand here, but it's not a strong demand. So these trades can be taken off these new demands, but they're not high probability trades as yet. However, you know, if they do move from here, you know, supply is far away, so there is a chance it could just run. In this case, I haven't put an short entry in this 3-week, 2-week supply here. It already tested the 2-week supply and we got this entry before the drop. And there is a 2-day here. However, because it's coming off 6-month demand, I don't want to be too aggressive. And the fact it didn't test this 5-day supply up here previously. So BCH generally, I'm just not being very aggressive. You know, it could run from here. I definitely wouldn't be shorting here. If it runs lower, then yeah, I'd be looking at this monthly level here. But again, with that same risk that it's just going to take out a bunch of these stops on a big wick. And then I also have an entry down here on weekly demand if it did do that, but then and weekly has been untested down there. It's the 61 fibs, so there's a chance we could go lower. Same as everything else, I need to look at the BTC pairs really. EOS has been a little bit stronger as well. So EOS, I had an entry on this 3-day demand, but it did take a wick inside to the monthly. And on all these charts, I have said previously as well that, you know, they all had 2-week, 3-week, monthly chopping around here. So I wasn't clear on where the zone was, and some of them I've been put slightly more aggressive entries. This was kind of a clean 3-day there, so it was worth having an alert for it, but said there was always a risk they were going to run deeper inside. And in this case, obviously it's run deeper, but it hasn't quite run to where my next alert would have been on the 4-day. The other thing on EOS obviously is it's coming from this big 3-month supply up here. I think the BTC pair might be coming from a 6-month supply, so I need to go and check that too. Because it's EOS, I'm being slightly more aggressive on the short. You know, this is a clear zone it's broken down from. We did have an alert that went there but didn't quite test for the first short, and then I had a short alert here on the daily supply inside the weekly that we got a really nice short off from that. And then yeah, just here we're looking for, are we going to get that lower high? And the chop on a lot of these majors makes things obviously more difficult as well. Like a lot of them, not even the majors, just alts in general, a lot of them have trend line stops here in this 3-week, 2-week supply. So I'm slightly uncertain as to whether, I think, you know, for some they're going to reject in there. But for others, they're going to run through, and particularly those which have zones up here which aren't tested. So I guess we'll see. So the same here on EOS. Okay, we've had a decent move up on this, but it's right in daily supply now. So I just need to see what the reaction is on this. If we're going to make a new daily demand, that might be a possible long entry for a next move up. If we break this first, that would be better. But again, it hasn't done much of a retracement of this wick, so I'm just not sure whether it's going to come deeper. And I think I look back at some of the history as well to see what commonly happens after we do these big wicks down. So, you know, in some cases we've retraced. In most cases we end up filling them, but then it's also, maybe I'm slightly biased for looking at downtrends. Rather than, you know, now these are on monthly demands. It's possible, yes, we're in a bigger downtrend, but it's possible that this is picking up monthly demand and we're going to start a bigger uptrend. And the alts are just mixed across the board on that. Some of them look more bearish and some of them look more possibly bullish, but still very tentative. But in many of these cases that we do tend to end up filling the wick. You know, either sooner or later, maybe it goes up to supply first, maybe it doesn't. In this case, it just rejects off some sort of resistance lower. But in many cases, we do end up coming back and filling the wick. So again, just be conscious of that. Yeah, can either reject local supply, could go higher to the next supply, but then very possibly we're going to come down and test somewhere here again, or go lower. So that's the old majors. I just smoked the second half of my cigarette that I lit when I first started. So BNB. So as I said, BNB was one of the ones I was also more bullish on, so I didn't specifically call entries on these, but I said that I think, it was BNB and Ripple that had created the first 12-hour demands, I think, below, but Ripple I was more wary of because it still had the daily supply. BNB in this case, it bounced and it came down, but it hadn't made a daily supply, so it's managed to run. And then a few of my group took, I think, longs on this 12-hour in here, so that was pretty nice. And again, hasn't come back and tested a lot of the wick, but has picked up previous support. So on any of these, again, just look, where we've got these big wicks, look at where previous support is, and sometimes it's clear and other times it's not. But yeah, in this case it's held the previous 12-hour demand that it's taken a wick through and the start of the last up move before the breakout. In the bigger picture, BNB is on a 3-month demand and also hit an annual level down there. So let me just show the annual quickly. So this could make a very decent move if it wants to, or it can come a lot deeper into the demand. So be conscious of that. Like, just because it bounced off an annual doesn't mean, if you're taking the annual trade strictly, you enter, when it hits the annual with your stop all the way down here. So don't get too carried away with it. But if it does have an annual demand, there is a chance it can significantly take off from there. It had a 3-month sitting on top of that, or it's 3-month. The annual zone, the annual level is inside the 3-month demand. So on that basis, I haven't put. So while we still have a risk here that we have a swing fail of the high. It's on a strong annual demand. I'm not on that basis. I'm not putting any shorts on this. So we'll just see what happens. It did have a 2-week supply up here, but it already got tested locally. So just see what happens when we get up here. And again, on these, I'm looking for, if we can't push higher this week and we create a 3-week supply, then I might be more inclined to look for a short to potentially go lower inside. But I just don't want to be shorting off already tested zones or low time frame zones up here. So this 2-day, for example, I don't think I really want to be shorting there, or there'll be higher probability shorts anyway. So on this I did set another alert for a retest of that annual level if it does come down, so that's something that's worth watching for. And then if you want, you obviously can trade the low time frames and scalp. It's 12-hour, new 12-hour demand in there, scalp longs off that. If it comes deeper, I think, again, it's not clear, which is the problem. I don't like zones which have already been tested. There's a 5-day here, but it already got wicked. So my next alert will be quite a lot lower, but that doesn't necessarily mean I think it's going to get all the way down there. And again, the BTC pair can help make those decisions as well. Excuse me. Link was another one that also had an annual demand, and we already got the test off that before the previous up move. So now obviously it has come back down deeper inside again. So again, let's show you that, but this is weaker again, you know, it barely closed above the last annual candle, but again, not something I particularly want to trade against. There was a 6-month demand slightly below, and that was where my next alert was. So if we drift lower, you know, watch that level, just taking out the wick that we've had so far this year. And again, like my other reticence on this, I guess, is similar to Ether. You know, it's got this now weak demand here. So, excuse me, I have something to drink as well. So yes, on the lower time frames, I've got my drawings back. I've got an alert for if we drop into that 6-month, and I put it slightly higher as well because I think there's a daily just above the zone, just in case it front runs me, because, you know, it may already be front run me anyway, but Link is inclined to front run my high time frame entries for some reason. I've noticed this previously. And then up here, I've got a 4-day, 3-day supply, so there's this big zone up here, but and like I say, the risk here is that we're still coming off this big annual demand. So shorts aren't necessarily high probability, but it's clear enough for me to kind of think, well, maybe it's worth scalping. The only thing is here is it's made a bunch of equal highs here, so it's possible it goes and targets those. So I should probably put that in there actually. Yeah, so it could end up going and taking out the highs there, but I guess we'll see. Oops, but that's black cross. And again here, this hasn't really given much locally yet. It hasn't been one of the stronger ones so far. You know, it's just made this choppy 12-hour rejecting, 12-hour rejecting. So now has made a 12-hour demand. So is this the sign of the turnaround? Possibly, but we need to see these 12-hour demands hold on everything. So that's BNB and Link, and let's go ADA next. So ADA's similar. I'm hoping we're back. Are we back? Okay, a brief disconnection from the internet, but it looks like we're back, so we'll have to assume we are for now and hope that I'm not having any problems. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, ADA, what was I saying? We had 6 months demand on ADA here, has tapped into that, so that's been a pretty nice bounce off there, but again, not giving me much on the low time frame yet. 3-month level that it's currently trying to hold as support on that low time frame, so I was just scrolling back down so I can remember where we're at. At the high we did reject, we came through and wicked through, but took stops off monthly supply there. So again, this is just, we're looking just for that strength to pick back up in the next week and towards the end of the month, because this will create monthly supply or 3-week supply if it closes as it is. So we need to see, and also has a 2-week supply up there. And it's similar to some of the others on this. I'm not putting any short entries in at the moment because we are coming off that 6-month much higher time frame demand. And again, doesn't mean that we're not going to reject off here and consolidate for some time, but I just don't think it's high probability. Similarly, there's just a lot of chop on the daily through here. So we could, you know, if it does, you know, it may reject in here, but it also could wick through, but it's not a clean, there aren't clean zones in here for me to really think that are worth trading. You can see all that chop there. So either we're just going to drift down from here, but, you know, either we're not going to go back up and test there at all, or I'll just see what PA I get in there, but I'm not going to alert anything for now. There's a tiny 12-hour up here that hasn't been tested, so again, could also take out those highs. But coming off a 6-month demand, we expect a new high anyway. Can still go deeper into the 6 months demand. So I'd be looking down here on the 3-week if it does go deeper. And then I put another alert. I've re-alerted the same zone here in case we get a retest of this daily 3-day demand sitting on top of the 6-month. Decent fib retracement area. Locally, it's still got daily supply on this, and I made a new daily supply, and so it's trying to push through that. But again, there's not really anything I particularly want to long on this as yet. Like if any of the majors are to be long, then it would be BNB or Litecoin, but not something that's looking like this right now. That's ADA and Pol. So Pol, I haven't got the other chart open, but if you've seen the previous analysis on this, like I've drawn in the old Matic chart, and I do have somewhere here, hopefully, a screenshot. Okay, so this was I've got a screenshot from charts.cointrader.pro, which has the history of, and then it's put Matic over onto the new Polygon. So it's now got an annual supply in there, so I'm not overly loving this anyway. But then additionally, what I was looking for on this is potentially for us to test this wick. So this wick happened on the, it shows on this chart, but doesn't show on the MEXC chart that I'm currently using. So I was saying, and there was a weekly demand down here that hadn't been tested, so I did have an alert for that. So that's why there is an alert. What appears to be an alert at a blank point on the chart. It was this weekly level down here. So again, it's had a decent bounce off there, but the problem with this now is it's just got so much supply. You know, it came off a 6-month supply up here. It now has the annual up here. I've got both the yearly levels from this new chart and from the old chart. So, you know, if it does get back up there, I'd be looking for rejections anyway. You know, it has closed as a big swing failure of this last move, but again, I just need to see a bit more. I've been a bit more aggressive on the short on this, and again, you know, it could just be for a scalp or whatever, but I did have an alert. I think maybe I even had that before the drop, but for the 2-day supply there is an aggressive short entry, but it didn't come back and test for me. And similarly, the only thing with this is it has left all these levels untested above, so again, it's a bit of a difficult one, but if it gets passed through this one, then there's a chance it can just take them all out because it's left so much untested. So many areas untested. So this had made a 12-hour demand and made an 8-hour down here. So that demand made an 8-hour down here. So that had a decent, and has also at least retraced into, it's got a monthly demand here, and it's retraced back into the level and has found support on that. So that was a decent possibility for a long there. Again, the bigger picture on DOT. It's just running sideways in a range. So I talked about this a lot on many of the alts, well, the ones with history anyway, so they've had this big drop and they're really just running in this range. Some of them are bounded by supply. This one at least has run through supply, but is still finding resistance at the previous support level. So really at this point, it's just like, are we going to hold this? We're continuing to hold this range for more of a sideways move or a move up, or are we going to start breaking down the ranges? And a lot of the alts have now broken down these ranges, but the majors for the most part are holding. I think maybe just a Pol and possibly Atom are looking somewhat more ropey than some of the others. But so DOT is holding this monthly demand, could get a bigger move up from here if it wants to. Starting to look like one of the stronger ones, but I have put an alert on the 4-day, and then there's a 3-day supply in there, so again just slightly more aggressive alert on this, just to see what the reaction is when we get there. So yeah, again, like from the bull bear perspective, just for anyone new to following me, again, what you're looking for this. So all I don't necessarily think that, this is going to come here and then just go to hell, like it might, but, even if it does get here, we've had a big drop and we've had a bounce, and it's likely, if it does come up now, at some point it's likely to run out of steam. It's not likely just to go straight up to the moon like that. So some of these entries really now, these retest entries, I'm looking for this type of thing, or here, it's just coming up, it's testing, and then we just see what happens. Are we going to make a higher low? So these retest entries, while a little bit difficult because of the chop, and it's the same on this, this is more aggressive. I'm alerting the first major supply, but does also have a 3-week supply that wasn't tested here, tested on lower time frames, and then another 5-day at the top. So if the market suddenly does go super bullish, maybe it can run through. But I think, alts generally haven't been super bullish. Everyone's calling for alt season, but this alt season, it was great, it's a good big move, but nothing like the previous moves that we've seen. So these last two supposed alt seasons haven't really been an alt season when we compare them back to 2021, and certainly also not to 2017. And I've got a 6-month level in there, yeah. So yeah, in the bigger picture, something like DOT as well, like again, it potentially is going to make 6-month supply if we close down here. Obviously there's a lot of 4.5 months until that happens, so it's very hard to say at this stage. But when you look at it like this, it's just in a sideways move, so trade the sideways move. You don't have to trade this assuming it's going to go to $50. But if you choose to, then this is a perfectly reasonable time to buy. DOT and Sol, I think people are more interested in. So Sol was a little bit like Link actually. So yearly demand at this level, it's weak demand because it's only swing failed the highs, but again, just looking for a bit more, scalping the range and looking for a bit more to build up. So I did have the original entry on the annual level here that I've analysed many times before, and then I had a retest entry on the daily. So let's go back down to the lower time frames. Come on. So yeah, I had a daily demand at the bottom of here, which is the more aggressive entry and not ideal with the swing fail of the high. But having swing failed the low, it could bounce off the daily at the start of the up move, which it did, although it did take a wick down deep inside. And again, this hasn't been one of the stronger ones. It did make a very clear daily supply, rejected off it a couple of times, and is now still coming back and testing it. So again, we just need to see what the reaction is here. I put a possible short on the 2-day supply there. There's a 3-day inside it, and then there's another 3-day at the top. From a bigger picture perspective on Sol, it's just, again, it's challenging. We had this very long consolidation here, then not a very big breakout, and a swing fail of the high, and then a second swing fail of the high. So I don't want to be overly bullish because of that, but then similarly I don't want to be overly bearish because we do have an annual demand and we've got a monthly demand and then a 2-monthly demand, so we're holding all these levels. So my next possible entry would be on the 2-month demand on this, and then possible short there. But whether we're going to get down here, I don't know. We could just consolidate through here again for 6 months like this did. So I guess we'll see. But in the short term, it just needs to get through local supply, which it so far hasn't. In this case, a new 12-hour demand as well there locally, so we just need to see if this is going to pick up from there. At least this has a decent, it did come back and test the daily level and was on the 61 fib, so it was a decent entry, re-entry for a long here, but again, just a weak move so far off it. Near is also one of the weaker ones. Come down and bounce on this monthly demand. It had already tested it a few times, so therefore my alert was lower on the 5-day inside. And Near had this monthly demand since the start of last year. Well, that really is a year. So it's been a year basically going sideways, and now with multiple tests, I would think we're likely now to break this down. The next zone I have of interest is a 3-month down here. And again, it's a very big zone, so hopefully it doesn't drop all the way to the bottom, but be a decent fib area, fib retracement area around here. There's a weekly in there as well, so watch there for longs if we get down there. If we get an up move from here, this would probably be one of the ones that would be better for looking for shorts. At the moment, I think I've got the alert on 3-week supply up here. There is a 2-day below it, so I guess we'll see. That might be too conservative on this. judging by now the possibility of a bigger breakdown. But overall, we really need to just see what the market's going to do. And I haven't talked about the others chart in this stream, but others obviously did hit my entry where I was looking for long entries for the market as a whole. But again, it's doing similar patterns to this because all the alts really look the same. So we just need to see if it's going to pick up from there. Like Ether, it's the demand it's hit, that's great, but it's not a strong demand. So all things need a little bit more time. So I don't think there's any more on near there. But again, so all of these are at support, so you can long any of them if you want, but like I say, I would just pick the stronger ones and then be careful with getting out as soon as we start hitting supply, because we need to see those retests and then some consolidation if we're going to pull another up move from here. Atom, there was actually a 6-month supply in here, which I've kind of deleted the colour just so I could see what I was doing, but it came up, so it was 6 month was a bit lower, so I was looking for shorts from lower on this, but it came up into, I think there's another 6 month inside, or a monthly inside the 6 month, so it came up higher in there. Now also has an annual supply above, so I'm certainly more bearish on this, but whether we're going to go up and test that annual supply before a drop, I don't know. But that's obviously not a very good move down from Atom, given it had a stronger than expected move up. I was looking for shorts on this much earlier than where it actually got to, and has now come down, and I think it looks like it's pretty much equal lows down there. So again, can hold this as support, could do a move up. If you want to trade the range and not bother with shorting these and assume this is a range, that's also a valid trade. But this is one of the ones I'd be more bearish on again. The lower time frame in its favour, I guess, is that it does have a bit of a gap to supply because it had a bigger drop than some of the others. So there's 3 day, what have I got? 4 day, then 1 week, then 3 day. But again, the chop that's in supply here. Also an untested 5 day above, so could run through this zone if we suddenly do get some random strength in the market. But yeah, that's the initial alert for the short, and then potential longs down here, 2 week demand, and then there's a 1 month below. So those would be decent areas to look for long entries. This is not one I'd be particularly saying long now. So yeah, that's kind of all of those, all of the old majors and new majors. But yeah, you can basically see that the low time frame patterns are pretty much the same on everything. Pick the stronger ones, pick BNB, Sol, Link, that all have an annual demand if you want to go long. As they come up for retest, then obviously pick the weaker ones. What was it? Atom, NEA, Pol, possibly EOS would be the ones you should be looking to short when they hit supply. Yeah, and overall do your own high time frame analysis and find out where we're coming from and going to and the ranges we're in, because there are obviously, if suddenly the market is going to get super bullish, these are good places to buy for long term. If you believe in Atom or whatever, Atom, because we're looking at that and you think it's a good coin or has some fundamental like events releases coming up, then maybe this is a great entry for it. Don't be long, don't be shorting right now, obviously, except if you're scalping. But do keep an eye out for the low time frame entries. So for example, Atom here, it might reject off this daily supply here. You could get some low time frame scalps off there, and don't be longing straight into this. But just watch this price action develop. If this is going to break, if demand's going to hold on that new 12-hour demand in there, is that going to hold? And it's much the same as with Bitcoin, which I can't see at the moment. Let's see here. So we've had another bit of a drop on that. I say a bit of a drop, very low time frame. Yeah, okay, so on to the alerts, or to the alts. So I've had a mixture of alerts. I was saying earlier, for the most part, I think most of my short alerts have worked. I've had a few, like Cheems here as an example, you can see, which has obviously run through on a big wick, and I think BID, for example, I had a daily supply alerted and it ran through, but only on a wick. But then so then you can see things like I did all the new MEXC coins at the weekend, so that's why I've got some kind of random things in here, like PASTERNAK, whatever that is, daily supply, easy rejection off there, and PINEYE, another daily supply, also a really neat rejection off there. So these are kind of the easy trades really, where they've got there's no, you know, it's just a downtrend. There's no support, so there's no reason why you can't just short any retest on a daily 12-hour, 8-hour. And the longs have been, so then we've had a couple of very aggressive moves on. I think FTPT was one, BNX here is another. So this has come, for example, into monthly supply. It had a decent drop off it. I then had an alert here for a long on the hourly demand, and it bounced just above there. But again, this is still running. BNX likes to do its own thing, so that doesn't really surprise me too much. There's another 2-month supply up here, so it's looking like it wants to push a bit higher at the moment. So yeah, that's that. And then, oh yeah, so I was going to say, yeah, the long entries are more 50-50, so depends on the timing. So I've got a couple here, I guess, that have worked. So DOGEAI, oh well, there was one that didn't work, so I had a 4-hour, an aggressive alert for the 4-hour. Like really, you probably would have wanted it hit on one of those 2 wicks, but then, so when it did come, it then came through. Another 4-hour demand at the bottom. So that's held for an initial scalp at least. ICE is another one here. It was an 8-hour demand. It hit a little bit earlier than you would have wanted it to with where the rest of the market, so it's taken a bit of a wick, but again has had a move up. And the other one that I've been shilling in my group because it was the only chart I saw that I liked when I was skimming through was, I know it's not here, on my other list, it's called BCX. I can't remember if it's actually even on any exchange other than, try and actually sort the list. Don't know if it's just a MEXC coin or if it's on, right, we're doing that thing where we just don't want to sort the list in alphabetical order. Why does it do this? It's a strange trading view bug when it just won't sort your list properly. Am I going crazy? I'm sure it was BCX. But apparently it doesn't. It's either not sorted in order or is not on my list anymore. BCX, BSX. So we're seeing a bit of a drop on this now. But yeah, this was a chart I quite liked on the high time frame, so I called a kind of a relatively aggressive long on 2-day demand in here. So that did get quite a nice move up, and in fact went straight through 4-hour supply and then up into, I guess it's a 12-hour supply above. So it's now coming back for a retest. So this is something just to keep an eye on the high time frame. You know, it doesn't really have supply. I have no idea what it is. I have no idea if it's got legs to keep moving. But you know, anything that looks remotely strong when everything else is looking horrendous is worth watching. So it's now coming into this 8-hour demand, so you can keep an eye on that and see if this gets another push from here. And hopefully won't just die. And then I think VVV, which I already had on the layout, was this one was another one I was kind of liking the look of. So I think I called it around here and said, okay, we're going to make a 12-hour, I think it was a 12-hour and 8-hour demand in here, and it did come a little bit lower, but then hasn't had a nice move up. I've had a short entry go off today. Again, it's not necessarily a high probability short, but we can see if it gives some sort of a reaction here. And then potentially that would be a re-entry if it does drop lower. So there are some things that are moving up, but not a lot, and not a lot that's holding. To be fair, I haven't looked today, so I don't know if a lot's bounced, more's bounced today since Bitcoin's been holding a little bit better. Right, so anyway, on to the I's, J's and K's. So I did these last week. I started on the I's. I'm not going to remember them terribly well, unfortunately. It was probably better when I did previous, but it's really just to show you the levels and maybe have a bit of a talk about the structures. So ICE had this big move up because it released mainnet, and then yeah, I kind of put an aggressive long entry in the hope that we were going to come and take out the high, but yeah, it did not hold. It was basically me buying the top on that, but now I've gone back to buying the bottom, so now it's an 8-hour demand here. I can't remember the detail on this really. There is a 2 months demand just down here that obviously hasn't been tested yet, so the wick came to just above there, so that would be where I'd be looking for longs potentially on this if it comes down there, and or you know, if it holds this zone, then great, then it might get a move up from here. And then I've got an alert for possible retest of 8 hour supply up here. I would have had that in a while ago though, so I don't know if I'd love that zone if it comes back after, certainly not after hitting 2 month demand. But yeah, this chart I haven't fully updated, having done it a few days ago. But yeah, these are supposed to be the high time frame anyway, so let's just move on swiftly. So ICP has some historic zones left in here. So ICP 3 month demand down here that I got alerted, then there's a weekly inside it. And again, it's just one of those that, you know, it's rejected off monthly supply. It's got a monthly demand, room for 3 monthly demand in the case of this. Hard to know, you know, which is going to be stronger at this point. We've just got a battle between supply and demand. So this could just continue ranging a bit more in here. And really, I'm looking for, so on a lot of these, I put, you know, the monthly, the 2 month and the 6 month levels in, just so I've got something to keep an eye on. But obviously none of these are confirmed, which is why they're in dashes. And I might leave that there. But this also has a 3 week supply, so I put an alert up here for the possibility of getting a test of that 3 week supply up there. And then we'll see what happens. ICX also has all my old levels back on it. What happens sometimes when you use the wrong part of the layout. So again, this is swing failed below, so it's possible this can move up from here. But again, we need to see that breakthrough supply and see it have some strength. So at the moment, I've got an alert on the 3 week supply up there. Same chop. So what we're going to see on all of these is the same chop. They've all got 3 week supply. They've all, or majority have 3 week supply. Majority have a 2 week supply, and in many cases, this has already been tested, like you can see on ICX there. The 3 week is, you know, at the same level as the weekly, so in some cases even the weekly has been tested. In this case it hasn't. And then there's various 5 days, etc., 4 days throughout there, and in some cases, as I've said, some of these have been tested. So in this case we have tested the 5 day supply, but in some cases they haven't. So I think I'm generally going with, if that 5 day supply has already been tested, then I'm kind of okay with putting an alert on the 3 week supply. But if the 5 day hasn't been tested, and certainly also for those that are coming off a monthly demand, I'm wondering if they're going to go through higher in the zone. But yeah, this is now just coming into a daily supply, so I guess we'll see. But only got a short entry on that, no longs. But you can keep an eye on it for the possibility of a swing fail. Oh no. All the things that I've deleted off my chart are apparently coming back. Here again, so we had a monthly supply, and this has just taken a big wick through it, and then it's gone wicked all the way up to the top really, but again fallen quite hard. It's holding a higher low here, so I guess we just need to see, what is this, IDEX? So yeah, again, this is one of the structures, and I've talked about these, you know, they're just very much sideways, starting to break down, but manages to hold, still off a lower high. Are we going to get a bigger breakdown? And there's be some, I think, that I'm coming to that we are already seeing this move underneath here. So again, just be wary. This one obviously is starting to look a bit more ropey. It does have a monthly demand, so, but I've gone slightly more aggressive on the short alert on this. It's got a 2 day in there, and then this 5 day weekly up here if we do manage to get higher. ID. So ID is actually kind of a nicer one. So we've taken out all the trend line stops into a demand, which is always quite a nice structure to have. And these ones I do find a little bit hard, because like, in some cases you'll see this, you know, this is the accumulation, manipulation, distribution, or sorry, in fact the other way around, this is the manipulation, so that's the accumulation, and then this is a stop hunting everybody out, and then we can see a move up like that, straight back up through it. A little bit how we saw on Ripple at the lows, actually, if you look at the bottom from where we are now, like the recent bottom. But on this we do have, there's a yearly level there, and then there's 4 day, 2 week and 3 week supply. So I've got an alert in here, and I guess we'll just see if this is going to run straight through it, then so be it. Let's see if that's the actual bottom, and then I think I also set an alert for if it does come down and test all-time low. But this is kind of an interesting looking chart, but it would be nice to see, you know, a rejection there, and then if it's made new demand for a long, or look for long entries if you want. If this is something you're keen on now, it's got a decent gap to supply on this. ILV, okay, yeah, so similar to what I just said on IDEX. This has now got an annual supply, but this is exactly what I was just talking about. You know, we had that sideways move. This couldn't push very high at all, and the breakdown has taken it a lot lower. I got a level there for all-time low from something previously, but I don't know what chart I was looking at to get that history. So I'm not actually sure what's happened below here, if there's some other chart that shows it that I just haven't charted. But yeah, because of the annual supply, and then also we've got a new monthly supply in there, I've set a short alert on that for a possible retest here, and then I would be looking for a bigger drop. IMX was always one of the stronger ones previously up here, but then, you know, broke down, didn't last, never lasts. I'll just take out a few of these old levels. So it's in a big 3-month demand here. It kind of just slightly front run my preferred entry there, so I'd be looking for a long on this 3-week demand if it does come down there, and then potentially right at the bottom. This has also created what's that, like as a 2-month supply in there, so that's where I put a possible short entry. A 1-month supply, maybe it's, yeah, because I put in some of the 2-month levels before they've actually happened yet. So this is a 1-month supply, but may convert to a 2-month if it doesn't get up there in the next few weeks. So there's 1-month supply, and then there is a 2-week inside it. So the alert is sort of aggressively at the start of the 1 monthly, but obviously it can go higher inside if it wants. Yeah, I wouldn't mind this one a little bit lower for a long entry, but may have front run me. Anyway, INJ. So this is something that people tend to be a bit more keen on. I've seen a lot of people kind of longing this already. Old levels that haven't been updated. I've got an alert down here for annual demand. So that would be much more my preferred entry than a random 4-hour inside here. So yeah, I would suggest this very much setting an alert down here. Obviously it's a big zone, but it's a decent annual demand, but it's a big zone, so it depends what the market's doing. It could come down deeper inside, you know, it has a 2 months down at the bottom here, although that got tested. But yeah, that, what is it, like the $8 area would be a very nice entry for INJ. It had a monthly supply at the high. Hasn't made a monthly on this candle as yet, but so again, the risk is it's going to make a 2-month, 3 months, 2 month, 1 month supply. So I'm just checking on my stream health. Excuse me. So the risk is that it's going to turn this into a monthly supply before it won't be the case. It can drop into here and then move hard off there. I don't know if it's going to get down here unless we have another big drop on the whole market, so I guess we'll see. But I put an alert for 2-week supply in here for now, and then obviously a possible monthly supply for shorts. But then this overall I am like a lot more bullish on, and the initial entry. So you just don't want that. It's just how much of the retracement are you going to get. INJ. So the fib, that's the log fib, the linear fib. It's in fact got to the linear fib, so this is, you know, it's on down at 78% linear fib, but the log fib, log fib would be a little bit lower inside that zone, but set your alert for $8 and see what happens if you get a reaction off the top here, because that could be a very decent move up if it gets there. IOST. Another one that's keeping all my old zones. So yeah, I had an alert down here on the 2-week demand, which hasn't quite tested down there yet. It's still kind of just about in monthly demand there. Don't know why I've got that as a, it shouldn't be a 3-month level. The problem I have with this obviously is that it's now coming off annual supply, so I'm a lot more bearish on this. This is something I don't really particularly want to be longing even there, but just be careful if you do want to long this, because it has already tested and rejected this annual supply. And if it comes back up, there's a 3-week here that I would look for a short at, and it would be retesting that annual level. Probably be a decent short entry on that. IOTA, another one just in a sideways range really. I think I had, feel like I should have a long entry down there, but for some reason it's not on the chart. I did have, oh no, there is one just quite there. So I've got an alert for a 3-week demand or 3-week/monthly if it comes down there. It's actually, to be honest, compared to some of them, it's actually one of the stronger ones. The drop hasn't been as big, and maybe the pump before was better, but that possibly just because it had smaller moves previously. But yeah, longs down in that 3-week demand if it makes it down there. Possible short, I put, there's a 2-day and then a 2-week supply, so possible shorts on retests of that level up there. And it's the same as just rejecting low time frame on there. I've got some low time frame analysis on here because somebody was asking me about it in the group. But yeah, we could possibly get a rejection here on the daily for another down move, or it could move higher into there, into the 2-week zone above, or 2-day, 2-week zone above. Hi Suresh. So another big one, so IOTX. So to take these things off so I can see what I'm doing. So this is just a big range. It was in a, there was a giant, what's that? Is it a 3-month demand? Or was it just, yeah, it's a big 3-month demand in there. That actually says a very old line. It's got one of my old drawings on it. It had a 3-month demand, it wicked through the bottom and then obviously pumped up high, up into monthly supply, and again back down and this new 3-month demand now. Another one's maybe a little bit more challenging. I wonder if I did these before the drop and that's why the levels are... No, that doesn't make sense actually. Yeah, so rejected off monthly supply up there. It's got a new 3-month supply in here and it's rejected off that and it's back out down in a weak 3-month demand, so I wouldn't be overly bullish on this. It's got a new monthly supply and there's a 3-week supply there, so I have to have an alert for possible shorts if it retests there. And I'd be looking probably for this to come down into this zone, 3-month down here. Obviously that's higher time frame and could bounce in here in between, but we'll see. But this is, you know, even with these, some of these that look slightly stronger, you know, they're really just in a triangle, and it's whether you trust this low to hold for another, you know, if this is an ABC or the start of the next impulse, are we going to test the start of the impulse here and have another up move? But that's actually one of the higher time frame, a bit stronger charts. This is one of the higher time frame, weaker charts. But unfortunately, it's had a very big move down for February, very big move down. But none of these levels, so I've got all these in dashes, none of these levels are confirmed. Could have swing failed the low, and then, you know, actually that could aim for a new high, but I put a short in for possible retest rejection of the 2-week, 3-week supply in there. There's probably some things lower time frame in here. But, you know, again, if you want to trade this as a swing fail of the low, that's a possible move. You know, maybe it'll give you a decent move up from here if we have bottomed out. So it's not a bad trade, this, to get in with your stop just below the low. IQ. Go back up to the higher time frame. So this is another one with 3-month demand here. It had a monthly sitting on top of it that we've come quite deep inside. Could still hold this level. I'm not looking for longs there. I'll be looking for longs if we do move down into these lower zones again, but just need to see a bit more PA on this for longs. I don't want a level that's been retested 15 times. Shorts, there's a weekly supply up there. Weekly and then 3 weeks, so that's looking at that for possible shorts if we retest there. ISLM. Yeah, this is one of the new ones I think I charted. So I put a short entry on the weekly supply. Obviously, I think I put this as a high risk long. I did reset, then this alert actually did go yesterday, but I reset it because it hadn't quite hit the level. But yeah, so I said it's a high risk trade, this one, because MEXC already wicked into this zone, but I'm using the KuCoin chart, but it didn't. And yeah, like I say, I've reset it. I just had a warning on my YouTube. about not receiving enough video, which is not great. So I might actually do a pause on the stream and then come back to it. Now I've just finished the eyes and then like, yeah, restart it in an imminent moment once I can just close some more things down. Anyway, just to finish this one, there's the last of the eyes. Yeah, 12-hour demand there is very high risk trade, but you can watch here for a possible long, because if it does work again, it's got a really nice big gap that it could fill up here. And then, yeah, I've got the next alert at weekly supply, but you probably want to be getting out there if you did take a long on this. But yeah, keep an eye on that. Anyway, I'm just going to pause the stream for a moment and see if I can, oh, it's now just, the error's just gone away. But I'm going to pause and just have a little break because we've just got to the end of the eyes, and then I'll come back in, yeah, 5 minutes or so and do the J's and the K's. Hi, I'm back. Stream seems to have fixed itself, so let's hope it stays that way. I will, yeah, moving on to the J's. Try and be quick. Right, Right, so Jasmy had a very good bounce when we had before the big drop. We had another pre-drop, and it was one of the ones that bounced really nicely on that level, and it was one of the ones that I was saying, oh, let's see if we can make a higher low. So I did have a more aggressive long entry in on Jasmy, which did, where it got a little bounce, but then we had the big drop. I'm not sure I don't think I've looked at this for new entries since then. Actually, I had a. This is where again it illustrates well the sort of chop that we have through, and it's going to be, it's possible that this could just throw a giant green candle if it wants to. So it's left a lot of highs through here. So yeah, I think I've just thought a few times about where to put possible shorts, but I don't really like any of it. There's a possible short here. What's that, 12 hours? So I'm too low time frame now anyway. I don't really like to look at the very low time frame. So it did have a rejection off 12-hour supply. Sorry, 2-week supply, and it's come back in, and it's in a 3-month, 2-month demand. So this just needs a bit more time to see what it's going to do. Is it going to hold? Let's delete that. Too many alerts on the one chart. But yeah, is this going to hold this range and this 2-month demand bounding the lows here? Or is this going to just fall off now? I don't know. So it's got a lot of stops below and it's got a lot of stops above. So it's kind of an interesting one to watch actually, but there's nothing actually massively want to trade on it. So yeah, we did have it's fallen down into a monthly demand down here, 2-week supply above. And then I think it's just got various 5 days. So there is a 5-day supply in here. There's a 3 days, a daily. So it's a bit of a tough one from a supply perspective. However, it's a fairly nice chart, so if you want to try and get a long entry on this and then just keep trailing your stop behind it, then why not? Because it could just run through all of this. I think I've gone with just a daily supply here at the top of this 2-week in case it just comes up to the top of the 2-week for a test in here, but then there's another daily above, so it's a challenging one, and it could just run through everything. Alternatively, it could run through everything and take all the stops from below, so it's difficult. But yeah, so I'm just going to not do much more on that. There's another monthly demand down here, which I should have alerted. So just put that one in quickly. 1 month demand. Put that alert in down there quickly. But I don't necessarily think it's going to fall all the way down there, not as yet anyway, but just be careful in case it does. Certainly don't be holding if you've bought in this range. But yeah, so it's doing nice bounces on each of the levels and is holding, so it's good that it has a very sort of slow grind down, because it's showing it's got more support, and then obviously clearly has support in this area. So yeah, keep an eye on that one. Just it's a nice chart to observe. Jelly is just horrible, so this has made a new daily or possibly even a 2-day supply since I last charted it. Now it's a daily supply and it's rejected it. So previously I had obviously my alert up here for a retest of the daily above, but it hasn't made it back up that high and it's just rejected this daily below. But so yeah, there's not enough history on this to really do much beyond that. You can look for possibly an aggressive short on this 12-hour here if the whole market isn't now just going to recover a bit more. Else wait for higher zones. Joe. It looks very similar to everything else. So this is now, so I've put a 2-month supply, but it's still a monthly supply above here. And it may or may not convert to a 2-month at a later date, and then there's a weekly inside it. So I put an alert for a short, possible short on this weekly here. It's back down in monthly demand, may hold this level, it's possible. Like I'm saying, some of these I haven't got the alerts in for where it's already bounced, just purely because I haven't updated them for a while. So again, doesn't necessarily mean I wouldn't have put one here had I looked at this previously. In fact, I probably would have done because it's got a 3-week demand. But if we get lower, this is where I'm looking for. If we get higher, I'd be looking for shorts there, because I feel like this, yeah, this is kind of looking like it might do a bigger breakdown. But also again still has the untested 5-day up here and a 5-day at the top, so still in a range I guess for now. Hi Edge Finder. What's this? JST. So this is one of Justin's coins. So it's always worth watching Justin's coins because he does like to randomly pump them. So this actually had a really nice bounce on 6 months demand, 2 months demand. Unfortunately, they weren't confirmed, I think, by the time when I put the entry. So I've had my entry on the 2-week demand inside. It's come fairly hard off 3 months supply up here, but obviously it wicked pretty high into it. But this is a bit of a local uptrend going on, so I don't think there's anything wrong with looking for long entries on this. Immediately in the immediate term, I've got a weekly supply, which for some reason I have 2 entries on. But yeah, so look for a rejection on the weekly supply for possible shorts, and then I would be looking probably for this to hold a higher low at this point. But I need to see more PA before either that, you know, or if it comes down, then we've got an entry on the 2-week if it makes a lower low, just a slight lower low swing fail. So perfect world, it will reject here, make a swing fail off the lower low, and then give the entry for the bigger up move. But we'll see. JTO, another one that's just holding like a sideways giant triangle and is giving entries, shorts and longs on both sides. So just hit 3-week demand here. Does have a monthly supply above. 1 month supply unconfirmed. Let me just check what I've done here. Okay, so yeah, so it's not, this hasn't, correct my spelling for a start. Zoom your screen, we can't see anything. I can't zoom much more. This is JTO, this is crypto, not FX. So this is crypto, this is JTO, it's on Binance. I can't zoom much more, but if that's an issue, I will try and fix that for next time. Anyway, yeah, so monthly supply up here hasn't confirmed, but that's kind of where I put an entry if it does retest there. I'm not going to do gold right now because I'm doing crypto. This is supposed to be my crypto series. If you want to get my gold analysis or gold alerts, you have to join my FX group on Telegram, and then I'll do that, like, just do the charts. So anyway, 3-week supply up here, and I've got a lot of wicks already in it. So if that confirms that monthly supply, then we can look up for potential shorts there. But this is at the point, or getting to the point, that it's either going to need to break up or break down, or pretty soon. Well, I suppose it could go sideways for another year if it wants to, but yeah, I'm not overly confident of that short entry unless the monthly confirms. So we'll see. JUP actually looks pretty similar to JTO. Joining my group. I hope you join my group. It's always nice to have new members. Okay, so JUP is another sideways one. You know, it's had tests on this monthly demand at the lows, which is pretty nice. It's now, again, it's just tighten, and this is just tighten a triangle, and with supply and demand just getting smaller and smaller. So many tests on this 2-week now, and we've made a 2-day supply, and it might be a 2-month up there as well. No, that's not that's a 2-month demand, in fact. But it's clean do 2-day supply. It's not strong, but I think it's worth looking for a short there again, just for scalps on this. But that is a fairly aggressive entry, and that's kind of probably going to assume that the market's going to break down a lot quite soon. So I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but we'll see. That's the entry then if it comes and tests it. J, I have no idea what this J thing is. I've just set a short alert on the 2-day supply there. There is a 3-day up here. It's not a strong 2-day supply because of this wick. But again, just see what happens. Just be a little bit careful on some of these more aggressive entries if they flip demand in between. So if this does close above here and creates a daily demand, it might be a better long entry for higher levels rather than here. In fact, looking at this, I don't love that entry, so I'm going to delete it while I'm here. Sometimes I set them obviously a while before, and so again, anyone who's getting my alerts, it's hard to know, like, so this preferably would have been tested on this wick. Excuse me. So I will keep the 3-day alert up here though. Yeah, so if a zone's tested like quite close like that, and if there's chop and there's a 12-hour and there's a daily, etc. in there, let's have a look. Yeah, there's a lot of chop in here, so this is not necessarily a zone that if it hadn't tested immediately, and if it's kind of rejected just below it, that may not be a one that I would particularly like if it retests, if it comes close and then goes back a second time. prefer this 3-day up here and taking a lot of the stops through here now. JUV. So this is just a sideways consolidation in a very nasty. So this is one of the football coins. These football coins were great actually. They gave us bottom and top signals, and it was kind of funny. Like I remember all my football coins hit alerts at the lows on the same day randomly, and there was no football on. I actually sort of asked around. I was like, is there any football that I don't know about that's making all these hit demand? So I had 3 or 4 of them hit demand at the same day, and then they did all go up, and then they all hit supply on the same day. So that actually kind of marked the bottom and then the top of the market. So that was kind of nice, but I think it was random. There was no actual football on. So anyway, this has, what's that, a 2-month supply. So it's made a 2-month, which is already rejected. And then, yeah, sorry, I do have a hidden alert in there. That's why it's just... So yeah, there is an alert here for retesting the 3-week supply and then this point of breakdown. So while there's still quite a bit of chop through here on this, and we still have the same untested 5-day above, so it could run inside it, but it's worth watching because it's the point of breakdown supply. Okay, now quickly onto the Ks. That was quicker on the Js. So another one, KAIA, it's in a monthly demand. It's got, yeah, daily supply above. It's the same 2-week as everything else. It's just in this sideways range. Is it going to hold or not? So we just have to see. But for, yeah, be looking for shorts if we retest there, and then longs, nothing that I particularly want to be trading on this. Like we've got the original entry on this monthly zone, so if it holds here, great. CAS was so strong for so long and is now looking slightly more concerning. And all my drawings are looking even more concerning. I don't know what's happened to some of these drawings below. So it's unfortunately it's got quite a lot of chop here. So I've gone for the most aggressive long entry. If we go down here, there is a 3-month demand down here. There's a month sitting on top of it, and then there's a 3-week on top of that. So I've gone with the most aggressive for the first possible entry, but again, just need to see where it lands if it comes down there. And again, possibly I haven't done it, but you know, possibly fib the whole thing and just see where the 61 potentially is going to land, which will be on the linear scale. I think I actually might have done the fib on this, and I think the 61 might be quite good entry. It looks better when you look at it like this. If you look at it on the log, it looks more like it might run through all these zones, but this obviously is now looking, okay, it could be a fake breakdown, but is looking now like it might possibly be a bigger breakdown. Take that, take that level off up there. Excuse me. Annoying places. But it's now got a new weekly supply in here, so potential look for shorts on a retest of this level. And again, just being conscious, there's a 5-day supply above it that hasn't been tested. KAVA, I think, might have been one of the uglier ones as well. Okay, yeah, so KAVA is uglier but challenging in its own way. So it's held this uptrend better than a lot of things, as we've just seen. Hasn't quite come down and hit this monthly demand yet, but the problem is it's coming from an annual supply. So I think I'm just stuck because, again, it's holding better and it's already tested all these levels and made higher lows. So similar to what we're seeing on a lot of the other alts that I've just gone through. This is the wrong color. You know, you've got this bounce on the weekly or 3-week, 2-week demand in here. It's come up and tested the weekly supply, but it's still made a higher low, whereas obviously a lot of the other alts are sort of somewhere down here now. So this is actually looking kind of stronger in the grand scheme of things. But then the difficulty is it is coming off an annual supply, and I think it is the first test of it. It's the test of this year, so it's I can't be bullish on this. It can still go higher in the annual supply, obviously, but again, just something else that's trapped between monthly supply with the swing failure, annual supply, and then monthly demand. But in the grand scheme, or sorry, in the lower time frame, it's actually holding better than a lot of the others. So something to keep an eye on, and also to check the BTC pair again on this. I think I didn't put a new alert there. I already had that alert for the possibility of just testing that low and holding, bounce just slightly above. So I've got a long entry on the monthly demand, just with the disclaimer that it's coming from annual supply, and then there's nothing in here that I would really want to look for shorts on, so if it gets higher, then we'll look for shorts a bit higher. KDA, another one just running in a sideways range. 3-week demand here, it's obviously come much deeper inside and found that support there. It's not a strong demand. Clean sideways range if you want to long something like this. Again, for a move up, that's fine. Multiple hits on this level, so it could go lower. So then here I'm just looking for possible short on weekly supply in there. And the same applies as previously. There's a 5-day higher, so if it's strong and this is just a range, it can certainly go to the top here, and this is a more aggressive possible short entry. KISHU. I've got an alert all the way up there on 6-month supply, so that can probably get deleted. Because it's not like we're going to get up there anytime soon. So I've got an alert here for there's a 2-day, 3-day, 5-day supply. I'm being slightly more bearish on this because we're coming off a monthly. So again, it's got a monthly overall, hasn't gone through it like some of the alts have. It's broken down. Yes, we're hitting weekly demand at the bottom, but yeah, I just want to see the reaction here. And if we run through it, then so be it. Now getting another video error, which is annoying. So I'm just going to patiently wait for a moment and see if the video error resolves itself like it did last time, because it can wreck the sound quite badly. Let me do another brief pause on this so I can see if it resets itself. So just give me a couple of minutes. Not even a couple of minutes. I swear as soon as I put on the be right back screen, then it says excellent connection again. Oh well. I think, yeah, I guess it's just not liking even changing the pair on TradingView. Okay, so what do we have here? KMNO. So I had yeah, there's a 4-day, 2-week demand inside there, and there's a monthly a bit lower, but it's come off 5-day demand there. Let me have a look. Oh, my mouse has gone. Okay, we're back. What have we got here? We had a 2-week supply up there, although it has been tested on the weekly. So again, that's another one of these challenges here, is are these going to reject, or given they've already been tested? So we had a nice short entry on that, followed by a long entry, and then it's come deeper. So is it just going to bounce around in this area? It's kind of flipped this 5-day into demand here, actually. So this is probably one of the strongest charts I've seen all day. So it's kind of got a very weak flip of 5-day demand in there. Don't know if on that basis I really want to have that supply entry, short entry now. Yeah, I mean, I'll leave the alert there, but again, there's a risk here of the trend line stops being taken out. I'll leave the alert purely on the basis that it did have a strong move down from that area, so it's possible if it gets there again, it could have another strong move down. But again, if you trade this, just be conscious that the 5-day demand might pick up support, and maybe this is just, you know, this is just picking up a larger uptrend again now. It's kind of a nice looking chart, really, KMNO. So yeah, something to potentially trade. KNC. I was remembering KNC from back in the day. I remember when this took off and nothing else did, and I guess that must have been around here. And everyone was like, "What's KNC doing?" And everybody was trying to short it. And it was like, this was when it was one of the times that it was really, really clear why you should use the BTC pairs, because there were lots of people trying to short this, I think, throughout this whole top section and getting liquidated repeatedly. But I think it was super clear if you looked at the BTC pair, like where you should look for short entries. Anyway, this is obviously not something I chart that much because there's very few entries on it. Yeah, so another one, 3-week supply in the middle here, worth looking for shorts. It is kind of in a sort of bearish flag, so is it going to get a deeper breakdown from there? Or are we going to just continue the range? So it's another bit of a tough one, but yeah, be comfortable looking for shorts there on that, and then potentially for longs once we make it down, if we make it down to this 6-month demand down here. But very much just a sideways move in the middle of everything. That's not really a trend line there, so I don't know why I've got that there. But there's potentially more of a broadening wedge going on here. But yeah, I'd want this a bit lower before looking for longs. KOMA. Yes, this is another one of the newer MEXC shitcoins. So no, it's actually on all the exchanges, so interesting. So I had a short entry on that yesterday, which has reacted quite nicely, and then again, that's exactly why I say that you should watch some of these, these interim levels. It's not necessarily that easy to pick. I think I picked this one. So if you watch my recent supply and demand, the part 2 video of how to find decent zones and entries, like something like this is a stronger entry because it coincides with this sort of broken demand that we had previously. So if I have a long entry that's failed, so I had 2, but if I have a long entry that's failed, then it's reasonable, if that makes a new supply, to look for shorts when it flips that particular zone back again. So we've had quite a nice reaction off that. This one, okay, it may have made the low, we just don't have enough history to know, so I have put in a possible aggressive long entry for the 8-hour demand here. I think since then, obviously, it's made the 2-day demand. I think I might have just drawn that yesterday, and I still wanted a bit deeper inside it, but maybe this is now just come off and is going to start again from here. But it's kind of an interesting one to watch on the long side. If it does hold this zone, it could have a decent move up. That'd be like 4 times if it came all the way up from here. KP3R. So this is one it's got an annual supply. I think it hasn't, no, so this test of annual supply, it hadn't confirmed at the time. So if it comes back up there, I'd look for shorts, but obviously it's kind of a way away from that. We've got a monthly supply. It's a weak zone, quite close to the price. Weak because it hasn't yet broken the low. So like ideally in this scenario, you'd want this to break down first and then test that for the bigger move down. But it doesn't mean, if it does this, that it's not going to reject straight off that zone. It's a bit wicky. I didn't love this, but I think I just went, okay, I'll put an entry just for the high time frame side of things. And again, all of these zones we're looking at, we're going, okay, the monthly supply's hit, the alert's gone off, find an entry as best you can based on your criteria and the time frames you're trading. KSM, why do I feel like I already did this chart? And I think it just looks very like KDA. So yeah, it did have a monthly demand. It's wicked deep down inside it. So I guess either it's going to hold here or it's not. I think, yeah. No, I leave that line there. Like if it has a proper, like sort of decent high time frame weekly close below here, but for me this is looking like it's probably going to break down from here. Like maybe we'll get some sideways first, but it seems like it's more of a likely breakdown than break up scenario. I do have a 3-week supply alert up here. So we'll see what happens if we get a test of that level again. It's got quite a lot of the chop through here. So I think we'll probably find with some of these alts that that they are going to run. So JASMY, for example, we maybe will get the odd one that is just going to run through all this supply, and then we'll get others. It depends if we're going to get an up move. And you can see over here, we had choppy supply coming down here. So it goes up and it does pause there, and it does pause there, and then runs quickly through everything else. So again, what we're looking for is it going to pause here? Is that going to give a bigger move, or is it just going to pause and then we're going to get another up move? So I need to assess the structures and the reactions as and when these zones are tested. Anyway, I think that's it. Managed to get through everything in just under 2 hours, 1 hour 45. So that's all the I's, J's and K's. I will timestamp them for you later. I don't think there was anything I really loved in all that I've just looked at. I think, you know, the stuff that looks maybe a little bit better or has a potential, you know, are things like JUP and JTO, but they're just in triangles. So again, they're still very much at the point they could go either way. You know, it'd be very nice if we do get a very bullish market and this suddenly does, you know, go 10 times up to $10, but it's just taking its sweet time about it. So the other risk is that obviously there's a bigger risk that it drops from here, but yeah, it's just really a sideways consolidation. Yeah, so I mean, the other risk is if you could buy this and it could be like, you know, 2026, 2027 before it actually manages to break out. So I guess we'll see. Let me have a quick look at others, because that was the one thing that I hadn't really, I don't think I've really covered that. I mean, obviously, from a market perspective, like the bigger picture stuff, you know, we want, if we're going to have a strong crypto market, we need this US dollar pair dominance to start breaking down again. BTC dominance did come off 6 months supply at the high here, which I did comment in the last video, I think, but that's fine. But is the money going to flow into alts? You know, a lot of people are just assuming it's going to flow into alts, but as it's looking at the moment, it's looking like it's flowing into US dollar tether, and the way this structure is starting to look. And it does have a 2 month supply here, so it's still like, even this is very, for me, very indecisive. You know, it's all a big triangle structure. Everything's like in a giant triangle, but you know, the concern here is if this is going to pick up demand and start moving up, then that money isn't going to flow into alts. That money is flowing back up to tether, and you know, alts have a hell of a lot further to fall. Yeah, so the others chart, I had this up just right at the beginning, but you know, it's just similar to that structure on Ether, and it's the risk we're running. We're so far playing out the first half of what I've said previously, that we do this triangle move and then we do these distribution moves. And I said we had a risk that we've got this triangle move and we're going to end up with a distribution move. There are differences. You know, this does have a monthly demand, 3-week demand in there, which I think this had a 3-week here. But you know, so there's differences local structure wise, but then again, the other bigger picture, we haven't managed to take out the high. You know, this is a double top, which typically has a target of the same as the up move drop. But without being too fatalistic about it, from a supply demand perspective, we're on monthly demand, we've bounced well, you know, and it's the what reaction are we going to get if we get up here. So hopefully at least we get strength to get up there, and or some of the alts get rescued a little bit. But is that then going to propel a larger down move, or is that going to allow a consolidation for a continuation? At this stage, I'm not sure. I was trade supply and demand as and when they hit, so I was, you know, bearish from the perspective of not buying resistance up here. I was bearish when we started to make 2-week supply up there, and we've had the drop down from it. And very logical not to buy tops. You can start looking for longs now, but I just don't know if we need a longer consolidation through here. But you know, we are just be conscious of this pattern, you know, that might happen. Following, you know, a small bounce. There are differences in those structures, but yeah, it is a very real possibility. And then similar to Ether, it's a very real possibility that we just go through this weak demand, what's going to be weak demand at the bottom. So be a little bit careful of your alts. And I hope that was helpful. I will finish up now and get on with the L's and M's, and like I really want to get this all done by the end of the week, so I'm going to be going hard on the alts analysis just to kind of finish off the 600 alts on the list, and then I'm still already behind, you know, even the new watch list, like having had so many hit, you know, on my February watch list, we had 10 days. I think within 2 days I had about 150, and now with 10 days I've got half the list is on here with alerts having gone off. On the plus side, it frees up alerts so I can put new alerts on, but on the downside it means I have to update all those charts again. But anyway, I'll stop moaning. Somehow I need to shorten the list. If anyone's got any ideas on how I can shorten the list, also please let me know. Yeah, so any questions, hit me up on Telegram. Please like and subscribe if you like this, so it can encourage me to do more and encourage more people to watch. Yeah, hit me up if you have any questions. Have a good rest of day.